Hey guys, I'm here today to do part 2 of my Midwinter book haul. Part 1 was focused on YA and fantasy and I'll link it up here, and this part is everything else, which is a bit of a mixed bag, so I will crack on and you can see what I have recently picked up and will hope to read in the near future. I always say that. So the first one is The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker. I've actually started this one about halfway through and I think you've probably heard of it. This is one that lots of people are excited about. It's a really buzzy new release. So this is sort of like a dystopian book. It focuses on a small Californian college town and the premise is that a pandemic has started which is causing everybody to fall asleep and dream very deeply. And this book is focused on a set of characters within that small town and how this pandemic is spreading and how everyone's coping with it basically. So there is that, and it has a very nice sparkly cover which I like. And then this next one also has a very nice cover, and this is Gingerbread by Helen Oyemi. I was really kindly sent this from Pan Mac, who published this one. And yeah, to be honest, as soon as I knew Helen Oyemi had a new book coming out, I wanted to read it. I think I've read 3 or 4 of her novels now. I haven't read her first couple, so I do need to go back to the start, but I really enjoy her books. They're just really unique, so looking forward to this one. And I believe the description of this is quite bizarre, but I believe that it follows a mother and daughter who bake gingerbread, and the gingerbread actually has a recipe from many years ago, this sort of folklore tale behind it, and I don't know if like them selling the gingerbread is leading to weird things happening. I'm not quite sure, to be honest, but it sounds amazing, it looks amazing, and I'm really excited to read this one. And another one I was sent by Pan Mac is the Larks War by Hilary Mackay. So as you can see, this won the Costa Book Award for I think the children's category, and I really enjoy reading children's books. I don't read them enough and I tend to focus on children's fantasy books, although I always think to myself, why don't I read more like children's cozy books, because I'm sure I'd really enjoy them, particularly seeing as I enjoy like cozy coming of age adult books. So this follows 2 children who are staying with their summers in Cornwall, and I think they're staying there during the war. Yes, they're sent there during the war, and it's about their sort of fear of, you know, how their family are going to survive, and I guess them getting used to living somewhere different. So this just sounds like such a cosy, adorable book, and I'm really looking forward to reading this one. So the next one I was sent unrequested from Virago, and I don't tend to keep books that I haven't requested, but I think this one sounds quite good, and I read the first couple of pages and quite enjoyed the writing style, so I thought I would give it a chance. So this is In the Full Light of the Sun by Claire Clark, and I hadn't heard of this. Like when I opened it up, I didn't recognise the title or the author at all. So this is set in the turbulent years between the wars in Berlin, and we follow a group of characters, and this is inspired by true events, and I think there's like some connections to music perhaps between these characters. And the sort of tone I got is this is going to be maybe similar to the way someone like Sarah Waters writes. That's what it felt like for this first couple of pages, bringing all these characters together, very descriptive and quite a slow moving historical fiction, and I like all those things. So whilst I'd never heard of this book and don't know much about it, I'm going to give this one a go, so do let me know if you have read this and what your thoughts were. Another one that was in my most anticipated releases of the first couple of months of the year, I bought myself as soon as it came out, and that is the beautiful Something Like Breathing by Angela Redmond. So I loved Angela Redmond's short story collection which came out a couple of years ago called Don't Try This at Home, and it's really odd because that short story collection is a sort of fabulous collection. Bizarre things happen, it's quite fairy tale inspired, and from what I can tell this is not anything like that. This is quite realist. So it's set in the 1950s on a remote Scottish island, and it's about 2 young girls and their coming of age story, and it follows their friendship basically, which all those things sound amazing. So this is one I'm hoping to get to this month, so you should hear me talk about this one quite soon. Then the next one is the only non-fiction book I've sort of recently picked up, or been given I should say. This is Lab Girl, A Story of Trees, Science and Love by Hope Jahren. So Lauren got me this she bought me it for Christmas, and we haven't seen each other since then, so she gave me this one recently. And you may remember, God, I don't know when this came out in hardback, but I was sent this before it came out in hardback. and I actually started listening to it on audiobook, and to be honest, I didn't really like the audiobook narrator and I was really unsure about the book. So in the end, when I was going from a massive sort of culling stage, I got rid of it, and since then I've heard loads of people who I have quite similar non-fiction taste to say how much they loved this. So I actually sort of had a bit of a laugh when I saw this, because I thought, you know what, I probably should have given it more of a chance, and I wouldn't have done if I hadn't have been gifted this one. So there's that. And also it's really floppy, which I love. I wish more publishers would do that. This next one is just because I was ordering something online and I wanted free delivery, and this was one of the cheapest books in my wish list. I really want it, but there wasn't any particular reason for picking it up like this month. And that is Pages for You by Sylvia Brownrigg. I heard loads of people rave about this, and when it first, when Pages for Her, the follow-on, came out, I was like, oh my god, these sound amazing, I need to read them. And then they've just sat in my wish list for ages, so I'm really glad to have this one, but it may not be one I sort of race to read, just because, like I said, I picked it up because I want a free delivery. So that happened. And then I already had enough books, and yeah, like already way too many for this early in the year. But Johnny and I went to London at the weekend and we had some spare time, so I convinced Johnny to go to Foyles, and I was like, no, I'm not going to buy anything, I'm just going to look. I don't know why he fell for that, but in the end I had him sitting on a little bench and I just used him as like a book holder whilst I went around all the shelves. So one book I definitely wanted, and when we walked in the doors I was like, this is the only book I'm going to buy, like I have enough books, this is the only one, and that is The Magician's Assistant by Anne Patchett. And that's because I've read a few Anne Patchett books now, I've really enjoyed them, and I heard Chris from Chris's Bookish Cauldron rave about this one recently. I think he put it in his favourite books of 2018, I think, and I was like, do you know what, I was going to go to which one is it, what's it called? State of Wonder. I was going to read State of Wonder next, but I think that's set in a hot country. This looks quite cold and I just prefer the sound of the story, and I'd looked in a couple of other bookshops, I'd looked in my local Waterstones and hadn't found it, and I was like, Foyles are going to have it, they're massive, and they did, and I was very happy. So this is about a woman who is married to her friend, and their marriage is sort of a marriage of convenience because he's gay and she doesn't want to get married, and so they sort of you know, get together in order to have security and friendship between one another. And then he passes away and she finds out that actually he had this secret family, and she sort of has to come in contact with them because of I guess like legal issues following his death. I don't know, but it sounds like a really lovely slow family drama, and as I said, I really enjoy Anne Patchett, so I'm going to read that one really soon. And then once I'd picked that up, I was like, I want more books like that on my shelves. I want more books that are like really well written family dramas that are really sort of easy to get through but still really well written. So I went to the Maggie O'Farrell bit of the shelf. I've only read I Am by Maggie O'Farrell, but I've recently heard more and more people talk about her fiction, and really wanted to give it a go. But I think her most famous novel is it This Must Be the Place, or This Will Be the Place? I don't know. And I don't really like the sound of that one, but when I went back and looked at lots of her other books, I really like the sound of her earlier ones. So I think this is actually her first book. I don't know if I said the title, it's called After You'd Gone. And this I think is set in 2 timelines, and it follows a woman who boards the train at King's Cross to visit her sisters in Scotland, and then she steps into busy traffic and is put into a coma, and it's about how the family deal with that, and, you know, questioning whether it was a suicide attempt or if she saw something, and then they sort of all start to look into their histories and it goes from there. So yeah, just really excited to start reading her novels. And then I wanted to try and get back into short story collections this year, and I'd recently realised that lots of the short story collections at my shelves just weren't making me feel very excited, and they were all quite sort of 1 or 2 tone, and I felt like I was missing some short story collections that I was, like types of short story collections that I was really craving, and so I decided to pick up a couple of new ones. So the first one is The Beautiful Indifference by Sarah Hall. So I've read 3 or 4 Sarah Hall novels, and I've read her other short story collection, which is called Madame Zero, and I loved it. It's amazing. I've heard mixed things about this one, but I feel like I just enjoy her so much as an author that I'm willing to give this a chance. So yeah, as I said, this is The Beautiful Indifference. It's got an amazing cover. It's actually quite small, and what I did was I had a flick through and read the first page of like 3 stories and liked them all. So yeah, I'm really hopeful that I'll enjoy this one. And then I was like, I was thinking, there's a Canadian author who wrote short story collections, who is really well known for short story collections, and I know her name, but for whatever reason I can't think of her name, and I was getting really wound up. And I was sort of wandering around the shelves hoping to see her books, and then in the end I had to look it up online, and it turned out that where Johnny was sitting, he was literally right beside the shelves where all of her books were, and they were facing out, and there was like a whole freaking shelf of them, and that is Alice Munro. You've probably already guessed that. So I basically had a little flick through, and there was 3 of her collections that I'd heard quite a lot about, which is this one, which is Runaway, Dear Life, and then there's another one called Hateship, Friendship, Courtship, Loveship, Marriage, and they're the 3 I'd sort of heard most people talk about, so I had a little look at the description of each of those 3 and liked the sound of this one the most, and I've actually started reading this. I've read the first story and I really enjoyed it, and I just, really reminded me of why I loved short story collections. So I'm hoping to enjoy this one and then have so many more collections to read from her. So there's that. So let me know if you've read any of these, and feel free to recommend me more short story collections that you feel like. So basically I have lots of short story collections on my shelves that are like weird and wacky, or not weird and wacky but really fucking depressing. So I feel like I want some in-between stuff. Does that make sense? Stuff like this. So feel free to recommend me other stuff. And also always up for more recommendations of like page-turning, well-written family dramas. So again, feel free to recommend me more books by, you know, authors like these. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!